everyone. Welcome to another episode of Flashback 64, the chronological Nintendo 64 podcast. I'm Gooey, here with McKenna.
Hello.
You doing okay?
Yeah.
Okay. McKenna's sick, but powering through.
Yeah.
Maybe not that sick.
I'm on the other side of it. Yeah.
Well, I feel like this is good because I've been really looking forward to this episode. We're going back to Mario again. And we're revisiting it, Mario 64, with some previous guests that we've had on multiple times, favorite guests. And, so I think overall it's just going to be like a chill episode.
Yeah.
We've been kind of like, this is like, it's a Thursday for us. And it's like just pushing us over the final hill of the week to get to that TGIF. So
yeah.
Let's introduce our guests. We got returning to us Alex James Kane. Hey, buddy.
Thanks for having me back.
And we got Nic McConnell here.
Oh my God, I'm so excited. It's good to see you.
It's good to see you. It's good to have you both on. I was posting, like, I don't know if it was like a week ago or something, about like, what are cool like guest matchups you could have for the show, and you two are both cool guests that I thought it just kind of happened that way, but I thought, hey, it'd be fun to slot these two guys together.
It was meant to be. I'm honored. I'm honored. There's no other way to put it. I'm honored.
So yeah, there's not much like introductions we have to do, like in terms of our history with N64 or anything. Like we're all vets to the podcast now. We know what's going on. So I thought what we could kind of do actually before we get into the episode is we'll do some plugs up front. Let you guys tell us what you got going on, what to look out for. And then I think that'll be a good way to get us into what we're doing today. But Alex, well, we were just talking before the show. Is there anything you want to plug? Maybe you want to plug yourself?
Yeah, well, so I've done a bunch of stuff over the last couple years, but I did a 30-minute Bethesda documentary for IGN last year. There was a book called Supercade. It was the second volume of that coffee table book on video game history. And I did the N64 entry for that, as well as the Super Mario 64 entry. So,
shit.
Mario 64 is definitely a game that I'm fond of and has a special, historical place in my heart. Other stuff that I've worked on recently. I did the text game that I think one of you might have played it. Maybe not.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I played
I think
that.
you did.
Mm-hmm.
Astoria on itch.io. It's sort of a sci-fi text game that I sort of took my wintertime depression and funneled it into this little passion project of a twine game as one does in January when they're watching depressing movies and things like that. So that was a lot of fun. I think I'm pretty happy with the way it came out. Twine games don't exactly set the world on fire these days, but it was a fun little sort of portfolio project. I found out about 2 weeks ago that my journalism job that I've had for about 4 years, they're closing the company and laying off 50 of us or something. And so I am kind of in that moment where I'm like, I have to job search. I'm 35. I want to work in games. And so I'm having that kind of moment of like, now is probably the time if I'm going to cross the bridge from journalism to like PR and comms or in the games industry somewhere, now is probably the time to make that happen. So I'm putting a lot of eggs in that basket of applying to PR jobs and applying to sort of junior game design jobs and things like that. And just anything that sort of sounds like a fun change of pace for me in this, stage of life where, journalism as a full-time gig is pretty hard to keep going right now. So, I think Polygon is hiring a staff games reporter right now or games critic. And I mean, I feel like I know 500 people who applied to that one job, So Anyway, if I have anything to plug, it's, there's a guy who's written cover stories and documentaries and things like that for IGN, Polygon, and Rolling Stone and Variety. All these different publications you've heard of, StarWars.com, RogerEbert.com, and Fangoria magazine. And he is looking for his next professional enterprise. So hopefully I will find a good fit soon and keep my health insurance.
For sure.
Life's good. Otherwise,
I would put out there, if someone's looking up the Wikipedia page for Doom Annihilation, you're the critic quote for it. That'd be I think your best claim to fame.
I wrote a couple pieces about that movie for Forbes, and I think I was sort of that movie's biggest fan, because
hell yeah.
Because it was like a micro budget Doom movie, with a couple really good performances in it and some really cool like special effects, and I felt like my review was maybe a little bit double-edged, a little backhanded, but the director reached out to me and thanked me for it and said, I wanted you to know you got it, and I just appreciate the nice things that you said. And then I ended up interviewing him about like the making of it and things like that. So
that's awesome.
That was kind of a cool little thing that happened, because those sort of direct to video movies, especially what was it, like 2020 or 2019, it was kind of a rough moment for things like that to come out.
Yeah.
So it was coming out like against Doom Eternal, and Bethesda kind of dismissed it publicly and things like that. So just one of those funny little things. But yeah, I'm all over Wikipedia for like Star Wars stuff as well.
Because
I wrote a book on the making of Knights of the Old Republic, and I wrote for the official Star Wars website for like 3 years or something like that. So if you look up like some random Star Wars character, you might find me cited in the Wikipedia citations or something.
Amazing. That's awesome. Well, yeah, highly recommend your work. The game you mentioned, very cool. I have to pick up that book you wrote the N64 blurb on. I did not know that. So
Super Kane. Yeah, I haven't gotten my copy of that one yet either. I need to do that. But I also wrote a thing on Halo 2 for the LAN Party coffee table book that came out fairly recently too.
Oh yes. I have that, and I love that's a great book. Highly.
It's a really cool artifact. Yeah.
Well, sweet. It's like I said, good to have you back. I'm excited to talk to you. And you're coming along for something kind of a regular feature that we've done now on the show, featuring our buddy Nick here. Nick, why don't you tell us about what you got going on? Because it's kind of what we got going on today.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to be honest. It's hard to follow that up. I am not on any Wikipedia articles, and I have not written a book. I don't think I know where to begin. So that's really cool, actually, to hear all the stuff that you've been doing, Alex. What I do, again, this is going to be a big step down in terms of how impressive it is I do like a weekly stream where I read video game manuals for about 50 minutes. I'm calling it Instruction Derby. I've been doing it for a little bit because I am a huge fan of, speaking of artifacts, the lost art of putting together manuals for video games to sit there and read and enjoy before you have a chance to slam that cartridge into your N64. And I do that, and otherwise I post probably far too much on the internet over at Blue Sky when I'm not working or being a dad. I'm kind of like finding my 3 different quadrants right now: posting, streaming, being a father. It's kind of like equal measures.
Yeah, all respectable, obviously. No, I mean I love the streams. We were talking about days of the week. Like I kind of look forward to Wednesday. Aww. Because that's going on right when I get off work. So I'll listen to a little bit as I get home. When I get home and we chill and watch it for a little bit. It's always a good way to like. It's like right there halfway through the week too. So it's like something to look forward to, when you're trudging through work. Yeah,
well, I really appreciate that, and I genuinely, when I'm doing those streams, it makes me feel so good, and I genuinely appreciate when folks pop in, and when I see Flashback 64 Pod on there, it feels really special. At the risk of being a little corny, it feels really great. It's like, oh my god, they're spending time with me doing this, so I appreciate it. So it's meaningful.
Yeah, thank you. And McKenna was sick. You showed her the dog, which really
brought my spirits up.
She rallied after that. That's why she's on the other end of this.
I hear Astrobot has a game manual.
Oh,
so maybe they're coming back.
Yeah,
it has like a comic book. You're right. I didn't even think about it. This is. What am I even doing with my life if I can't even get this story? That's right. There's like a comic book in there. Maybe you're right. Maybe it's coming back. Also, the Plucky Squire. By the time that this goes out, it'll be out. But the Plucky Squire, published by Devolver, has a beautiful manual that they've put together there. So yeah, maybe it's not such a lost art after all.
Yeah, I think maybe you are like. Maybe responsible for this resurgence.
I'll take it, or I'll take the blame. I guess either way, one or the other.
We're switching over. We're talking about Super Mario 64, which was the first game. I think it was in the first episode. I don't remember. I think we might have talked about Pilot Wings first.
I think we talked about Pilot Wings first and then Mario.
Well, whatever. Super Mario 64 is like it's the first gold standard game that we've talked about on the show that we've gotten to now return to a couple times. We still have plans to do more on it in the future, but of course we've got our returning guests who have not gotten the chance to go on and on about Mario 64. Alex, I know you already sort of mentioned this, but like, what's your personal story with this game?
Yeah, it was kind of my first true 3D game, as I'm sure it was for a lot of sort of Nintendo households. So my family had the NES that my dad had bought in 1988 or 89 or something like that. So I grew up playing like Super Mario Brothers 3, and then 1996, whatever month it was, September 96-ish, we got the N64 at Kmart, took it home, hooked it up in my bedroom, and Mario 64 was the game that we bought with it, so
hell yeah,
for many months, Super Mario 64 was the cool, exciting new thing in our lives. And I think to me and my sisters, it like blew all our minds, right? And probably my parents too. I mean, my mom played it. My dad obviously, was a Mario fan. So it took the formula and shook it up in all these ways. And, it's kind of taken for granted now, I think, a little bit. Probably in the way that Star Fox 64 is too. Like,
sure.
There's sort of like a lot of nostalgia around that, and why I love this podcast so much, right? Is because the GameCube and the Game Boy, like, and the DS and all that stuff gets a lot of fanfare, and the original Wii. I feel like, and of course the Super NES is like the big daddy that gets all the cred. I feel like the N64 is kind of that weird sort of middle child in Nintendo history that people are just like, weird controller, games are weird, the camera's weird. To me, it was anything but, it was, just utterly life-changing stuff at the time. And, I go back to those games like Mario and listen to the soundtrack and like Dire Docks, or like the roll call music at the end credits. Ooh. And like that shit, I'm like, play that at my funeral, like that is just the best, the best stuff. And you can hear Koji Kondo working with like a different palette, I think, that very sort of they sound like real instruments almost, and yet you can tell that it's still very electronic in nature, of course. But
oh yeah,
there's definitely like a whole genre of people who sort of remix that into like lo-fi and vaporwave and stuff and put it online. And I'm really into listening to that, especially like at bedtime, you know.
Oh, hell yeah.
Kind of just the best. And I think Mario 64 is just ground zero for Nintendo's 3D era, but also, you know, them finding, okay, how do we make a game in this sort of brave new world of 3 dimensions? And we're no longer looking at a screen, we're looking at a space with a camera, you know. And had Mario 64 been, you know, a lot worse or very different, you know, I mean, what does Ocarina of Time then look like? And what does, therefore, the future of game design look like? So it's just, it's very special to me. And, you know, I think maybe Star Fox, I might want to say, is like the better game, but Mario, you know, really touches me in the nostalgia buttons for sure.
Yeah, it's such a, I think it's that time period is such an interesting time because of that. Like you talked about like the way people perceive all the different consoles. And I feel like N64, I feel like either has like, there's people like around our sort of age who it's like, that's all they had. And they're like obsessed with, you know, particularly the big games. But it's also the console I see the most talk now around like whether things hold up or not, you know, like visually and from gameplay, you know, from a gameplay sort of point of view because of that early experimental period. So it's always, I don't know, it's probably always going to be like kind of an oddball, like people look at it as sort of an oddball console, but then obviously, I don't know, it's always going to be tied to the fact that there's certain people like me and you that where it's like almost like a game, like gaming defining console.
Mm-hmm.
So Nick, how about you? What's your story with Super Mario 64?
You know, I've said this before on the show, and I always feel terrible because it is an N64 show. But when the N64 launched, I was more of a PlayStation person. I had moved, I got my NES, and then I got a Super Nintendo, and then quickly traded that for a Sega Genesis. And from then on, it was sort of like, okay, give me these other experiences. So I actually was a bit late on the N64 train, as we discussed. But you know, I saw it from afar, friends had it, all that kind of stuff. And I was never truly that interested until GoldenEye came out. So I finally got my N64 around the time GoldenEye came out. And that was when I was introduced to Mario 64, officially and like really. And it's interesting to look back because I wasn't getting that day one 1996 experience of Mario 64, genre defining, you know, brain melting, you know, 3D platforming. You know, it had been around for a couple of years by the time that I got my hands on it. But it was no less effective at completely melting my brain and rewiring how I operate as a human being. Because once I had that controller in my hand and was controlling Mario and running around, it just blew me away for all the reasons that are obvious, right? The music is incredible. It's bright, it's colorful, it's expressive in a way that I don't really, Crash Bandicoot kind of came close for me, but not in the same way, right? Like this is like on another level of like, at the time, it felt like I was playing a cartoon. It was the first game, and this is something that I'll always remember, it was the first game that I remember sitting down and playing. And, you know, I was, 13. No, 13 when the system came out, I would have been about 15. But it was the first time where I sat down, I was like, oh, like momentum matters. It was the first time I really thought about how a game was controlled. And I'm not a designer or anything like that, so I don't want to overstate that. But it was the first time where I was sort of like, oh, these games are so focused around controlling the character, and controlling the character as much, if not more than everything else in the game is what is important and what makes this fun. And that made me think back to Mario 1 on the NES, how fun it was to control Mario there, you know, Mario 2, Mario 3, all that kind of stuff. And so for me, it was sort of an awakening moment playing Mario 64.
Sure.
And once I did that, it was over for me. It was over for me. I come back to it now and I still play it and I'm like, this thing is out of control. It's so good. It's just so good. Even if the levels are a little bit wonky, some of the stuff isn't great, the camera could use some work, it still feels as good as it did back then to move Mario around, do a backflip, butt stomp, whatever you want to do. Maybe not swimming as much.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was about to say, the swimming is fine, and then I had like flashback of you getting stuck in the frozen water.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
just drowning.
Yeah.
It's fair though. Mario's a land mammal, right?
I don't know. I guess I was gonna say, like, do you have any other thoughts on it? But I kind of asked you that like 2 weeks ago. I think we recorded.
Yeah.
More? Come on, more okay, Mario takes.
I don't know if I've mentioned it, but like the more I think about it, I think of one of the early 3D platformers that I played, Jak and Daxter. And like thinking back to Jak and Daxter, I'm like, there's a lot of Mario 64 DNA in there.
Yeah, I feel like there's almost like
there's like different areas to go to, and there's power cells that you collect by completing certain objectives.
I feel like in that era they were probably like, I don't know, I could be wrong, but I feel like Jak and Daxter, like that sort of thing, was kind of like carrying the torch of like that sort of game in that time period. I didn't really play too much of it at that time because I was very much a Nintendo kid for a long time, but I always got that impression because like in that sort of like mascot, I don't know if that you would call that a mascot platformer, but it kind of
I think so.
Yeah. So I could totally see that. Yeah.
Well, that'll be very late in our.
Does it cross
I
over?
think it slightly crosses over. Like it'll be at the very end of the N64.
There's like
life.
Yeah, there's like a couple straggler games in the N64 library that go to like 2002 or something, but it's like Tony Hawk or Madden and stuff.
Jak and Daxter.
Jak and Daxter. Yeah, I'd love to play it for sure. We want to hit up more of the PlayStation. Sorry, go ahead, Nick.
No. I'm sorry. I've got a little delay there. I apologize. It is sort of interesting to think, though. You talk about the N64 leading and bleeding into the PlayStation 2's early days, and all that. But it's sort of remarkable thinking about Mario 64, just how little was defined about 3D platforming. Like Bubsy 3D came out just, I want to say, like a month or something after Mario 64, and it's like that. Bubsy 3D is like that in part because there just were no real set expectations, right? There was no real language for a 3D platformer at the time. Mario comes in, and then just a few years later, Jak and Daxter's in there, all these extremely smooth, competent, confident 3D platformers are there, and it's just almost like out of nowhere from Mario 64 comes this like poof of magic. It's Mario 64, and then everyone just gets it. So it's sort of amazing to have a game come out and just be so fully baked, a genre come out and be so fully baked like that.
And I think to what Alex was saying earlier, like I think eventually, like Ocarina of Time kind of does that too. Like it comes out and it's like boom, this is the standard basically. But it couldn't have gotten there without Mario 64, and I love that. It is like it like repackaged now. Like there's only a couple things about it, like you mentioned, that would I think be viewed at as kind of wonky, but I think overall like the character control and that sort of thing is like timeless.
Absolutely. My hot take is that it controls better than Mario Odyssey. It's more fun to control him in this game than it is in Mario Odyssey. That's my hot take. I don't want Mario to come over and kidnap me in my sleep because of that. But I think it controls better.
Doug Bowser is on his way. So yeah, Alex, this is your first time on a manual episode. Nick's gonna kind of do his thing that he does on stream.
He's taking over.
Yeah, he's taking over the pod.
He's taking the reins.
Heck yeah.
And feel free, and just is gonna talk us through it, and feel free to interject and derail or anything like that.
Sounds good.
Cool.
Yeah. Did we want to do the box also? Did we want to read the box, or has that been covered sufficiently in previous
We haven't. Do you want me to pull it up here?
If you'd like to, I also have a copy.
Oh yeah,
and I can read, or if one of y'all wants to read, that's fine too.
Go for it.
The wealth.
I don't have it up on screen at the moment. I thought about it for a second and I forgot. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. Well, we got Super Mario 64. It says it right there. So we know what game we're talking about. Here comes the back of the box. Mario is super in a whole new way, combining the finest 3D, it's 3-D, graphics ever developed for a video game and an explosive soundtrack. Super Mario 64 becomes a new standard for video games. It's packed with bruising battles, daunting obstacle courses, and underwater adventures, which that seems a little bit more intense than how I would describe Mario. Like, I don't know if I'm making the back of the box for Super Mario 64 that I'd start with bruising battles.
Yeah.
Some of those Bowser battles.
Mm-hmm.
They're slightly bruising, yeah.
He's throwing Bowser into an explosive. Like, I guess it is. It's sort of like a death match, like a like an extreme wrestling sort of thing.
Oh, sure. To their credit, you know, when enemies get dropped or thrown or things like that, they really sell it. You know, like when you're dropping King Babam on his rear, it gives a good, you know, it's like that would be a pretty bruising blow, I think.
That's true. And when Mario falls from a high height, he goes like, and it sounds really rough.
Yeah, it kind of feels like when you're if you ever like playing with like a little like animal or something, like a kitten, and it like jumps away, and like you're like, oh no, is that too high? You're like, oh. Like that's how I feel when I drop poor little Mario. It's like, oh, are you okay?
He just gets some coins and he's fine again. It's a weird health system he's got going on. Yeah, it's like he lands and I'm worried that his organs are rupturing. So yeah, bruising battles. Retrieve the power stars from their hidden locations and confront your arch nemesis, Bowser, King of the Koopas. And we get a bunch of bullet points. He can run freely in a grassy meadow, tiptoe through a gloomy dungeon, or climb to the top of a mountain, or take a swim in the moat. Like, swimming in the moat doesn't sound good. Like
on paper, but when you're in the game, like,
it's a clean mode.
That is one of the cool like parts about that game. Is like when you're out there, like you just want to swim around, poke around, see what you can find. Like even in the outside of the castle is always so cool, especially when you can like lower the water level. That's so sick.
Yeah, the fact that there's stuff to do in that area to get further in is very cool. It's it was very exciting. Leap headfirst into a watery painting, and soon you'll be searching for the surface in an underwater realm. On-the-fly, 3D rendered gameplay delivers the action of ruthless enemy attacks from every angle. Again, I think they're overselling the violence of the game a little bit.
Yeah, it's mostly like Goombas slowly walking at you.
Right, like enemies that are largely kind of just friendly, walking back and forth, minding their own business, that Mario is coming and just absolutely crushing. Find the caps that give Mario superpowers. Ponder the mysteries of the pyramid. You can even race Koopas for fabulous prizes. With the Nintendo 64 controller and its analog control stick, Mario can crawl, kick down obstacles, swim, do reverse flips, and even stick the landing on his backwards somersault. And it's true. That is the best part of this game. Doing the backwards somersault is so good.
So, yeah. The movement, the jumps, so good.
Mario's so strong. Like, he's got to be just like a really strong guy to do all this sort of stuff.
It makes sense that he would compete in the Olympics.
Yeah.
That's a good point. This whole game was just him practicing for the Olympics.
Yeah.
Saved game information is stored for up to 4 players in memory.
That's good.
That's something. Yeah, that is good. That's something that I always forget whenever I'm going back and I'm playing like my PlayStation or an N64 game that doesn't have on-cart saves. Is just how miserable it is to play and then realize that you don't have a memory card. It's a bad scene.
Yeah, I'm curious about that actually. Like, Alex, is that something? Because I feel like it's something I did not remember as much about the N64 because I would play Mario, Zelda. Like a lot of the games I played just had it on the cart, and then now as we're going through, it's like, every game needs it. Is that something you remember being a struggle, or what games did you play?
I definitely, most games that I played a lot had it. I don't remember if Mission Impossible had it or not. I remember I would rent Mystical Ninja starring Goman and get really into it, get really far in the game. And like, if I didn't beat it, it was like hours just evaporating when I inevitably, just gave up or failed or whatever at the end. But because I don't think I ever owned a memory card for the 64. But yeah, Mystical Ninja is the one where it was painful memory wise. I don't remember the others. Mostly I played a lot of First Party and,
they tried
a lot of GoldenEye and
the only thing I can think of is like what saving your like ghost times on Mario Kart, right? Maybe you needed but I was like, who cares? I'm not doing that. But yeah, I definitely knew the struggle of like renting a game and then like trying to beat it in the weekend, not turning the thing off at all.
Exactly.
Struggle.
How many consoles do you think were fried by doing that? Like you rent a game and you have it for 4 nights and the system just stays on the entire time, just sucking energy.
That might explain why I got like 3 from my grandpa. I still haven't figured out like what actually works, but there's a bunch of miscellaneous also memory cards and like off-brand rumble packs and stuff like that, and I'm like, what was he doing to these? Okay, do you want to get into the manual?
The manual?
Yeah,
sure. I was just looking at Mission Impossible over there, so I got a little distracted for a second. No. I was looking at Mission Impossible. I think Mission Impossible did have onboard saves, which is good because you don't want to be restarting that game over and over and over.
It gets hard.
It gets really hard.
Ooh, I'm excited to get to that one, honestly, but
love that game.
I do too.
We're big Mission Impossible film fans, so excited to see the adventures of Ethan Hunt, I guess, on the N64. I have no idea what the game's like. I've seen like 5 seconds of it, but okay, sorry.
I don't want to spoil it. I think it's a game worth checking out on its own. I'll just say I have a soft spot for Mission Impossible on the N64. Softer maybe than it should be, but we have the Mario manual, yes. Mario 64 manual. If folks are at home reading along or listening along or just want to have reading material of their own eventually, I strongly suggest going online to your favorite preferred purveyor of manual PDFs and finding it, preferably in color, because this is, in the classic tradition of Nintendo 64 manuals, absolutely gorgeous. And it's absolutely worth just taking a look at some of the art, some of the 3D models, and all the colors they've got there. So that would be my first thing to say, but we'll go ahead and move over to the story section which comes directly after the Nintendo 64 controller section, which is 2 full pages of telling you how to use the thing. And you come on over to page number 4.
Oh, this is a great page.
Should I just start going?
Yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah, go for it.
So you see on this page, there's beautiful stuff. Yeah, there's Bowser, there's Mario, there's the Princess Peach stained glass design, which is extremely cool.
McKenna's all about it. Yeah.
It's so good. I kind of want it on a shirt. The story says, will Princess Toadstool, they're still calling her Princess Toadstool at this point. Will Princess Toadstool be kidnapped again? Is there no end to the constant feuding between Mario and Bowser? Would these guys just stop it already?
I'm imagining this is written from the perspective of like a denizen of the Mushroom Kingdom. Like, will this war ever end?
We've lost so many.
The game is kind of presented like a reality TV show, though, with the Lakido brothers as the cameramen or whatever. It is kind of like that, This is their version of like Jersey Shore or Laguna Beach or whatever.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was imagining more Lakido's like a war journalist, on the front lines.
Both things can be true. Okay? Both things are true.
That's maybe a dystopian future as well, as like the war reality show.
Oh, God.
No. 100-year Koopa Wars.
It says later in the manual, it does refer to Lakitu as Mario's cameraman, which I think speaks to.
Well, yeah, who's
I think
paying
Mario's
him?
engaging in. What's that?
Who's paying him? He's hired by Mario.
It says, Mario, please come to the castle. I've baked a cake for you. Yours truly, Princess Toadstool. To which Mario replies, wow, an invitation from Peach. I'll head out right away. I hope she can wait for me. Mario is so excited to receive the invitation from the princess who lives in the Mushroom Castle that he quickly dresses in his best and leaves right away.
He's dressed to the nines.
he's like, do you remember the show Doug, who just has like the one thing of clothes?
Yeah,
that's just what he is. He opens this thing and it's just a bunch of like blue overalls and red shirts.
I'll wear my Sunday best. Yeah,
this is my best stuff. Something's not quite right here, Mario says. It's so quiet. Shaking off his uneasy premonition, Mario steps into the silent castle where he's greeted by the gruff words, "No one's home, now scram!" The sound seems to come from everywhere. Ooh. This is a terrifying situation.
Yeah, spooky.
This is very scary stuff. Yeah. Who's there? This is Mario. Who's there? I've heard that voice somewhere before. Mario begins searching all over the castle. Most of the doors are locked, but finding one open, he peeks inside. Hanging on the wall is the largest painting he's ever seen, and from behind the painting comes the strangest sound that he's ever heard. I think I hear someone call. I don't know what I'm doing with my Mario voice.
I get it. Like, now you can understand where Chris Pratt was coming from, right? You're like, I can't do the voice.
I'm not going to do the voice. I'm just going to do my own. I think I hear someone calling. And I don't know. What secrets does this painting hold? Okay, I think I will say that I'm not sure this is how I envision Mario talking. What secrets does this painting hold?
It's weird that there is like so much Mario dialogue. I think that's the issue they're running into.
Mm-hmm.
He's normally just like, I'm tired or something. Like, you should be able to say this in like 3 words.
I was watching a retrospective about the game, and I had forgotten that if you let Mario just idle, if you let him just like rest there, he'll go to sleep and just start saying spaghetti, and it's just that for the whole time. So they could have done that with this. He could have just said wahoo, and then we continue on with the story. Without a second thought, Mario jumps at the painting. As he is drawn into it, another world opens before his very eyes, and so begins the grandest of all adventures. Once inside the painting, Mario finds himself in the midst of battling Bob-ombs. According to the Bob-omb buddies, someone, or something, has suddenly attacked the castle and stolen the power stars. These stars protect the castle. With the stars in his control, the Beast plans to take over the Mushroom Castle.
Wow. The Beast.
Is this about like the darkness inside of Mario? The Beast must not awaken. Mario has no idea.
Yeah, they're not talking about Bowser.
No, they're talking about Mario. To help him accomplish this, he plans to convert the residents of the painting world into monsters as well. If nothing is done, all those monsters will soon begin to overflow from inside the painting.
Sure.
Is that clear to you from playing the game? I don't remember that as being the threat.
I don't think so.
They should have had like a death screen where that happens. They just have like a scene of monsters coming through the paintings.
Oh, yeah, sort of like I think of in like Donkey Kong 64, when you game over, there's like a whole like long cutscene you basically got to watch. I think they could have done something like that. Yeah, I don't know. Alex, did you feel this threat when you were playing?
No. Okay. No. The worlds always felt contained in their little magical paintings, I guess, to me. But, Bowser doesn't really have a ton of dialogue in the game, right? Like maybe just like a hair more than we'd get the full picture. But it shows the importance of the manual right here. This is proof is in the pudding that... so much world building.
Elevate the story, yeah.
I like to imagine a person who's like sitting there playing the game who hasn't read the manual and is just like confounded the entire time. Has like just very frustrated. Why is any of this happening until they read the manual?
Yeah, like why would he jump in the painting? Where's the voice?
The
manual doesn't really explain why he jumps directly into the painting either. Like I don't think he's just like, oh, the painting looks watery, I'm just gonna jump face first into it. Mario's a madman. A plan this maniacal, says Mario, this cunning. This, again, Mario, I can't imagine Mario talking like this. A plan this maniacal, this cunning. This must be the work of Bowser. Princess Toadstool and Toad are missing too. Bowser must have taken them and sealed them inside the painting. Jumping to some conclusions. Unless Mario recovers the Power Stars immediately, the inhabitants of this world will become Bowser's army.
Oh,
well...
Okay.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, that checks out. That makes sense.
It checks out.
Yeah.
Well, Bowser's not going to get away with it, not as long as I'm around, says Mario. Stolen Power Stars are hidden throughout the painting world. Use your wisdom and strength to recover the Power Stars and restore peace to the Mushroom Castle. Mario! They don't say who says this. Mario, you are the only one we can count on.
That's from Miyamoto directly. It's a note from Nintendo.
It's just like in the tweets where it's like, this is Miyamoto. Mario, you are the only one we can count on.
I think that set up the story fairly well.
I think so too. I think it's pretty good. I have never, having played this game like a million times, I've never actually read the story at the beginning. So this was all news to me. And I do think it paints a much graver picture of Mario's of what's happening in the Mushroom Kingdom than I realized by playing the game.
It's maybe got more of a sense of urgency, because in the game it's just like, right, what's the story they tell you in the game? Like, oh, Bowser is taking control of all these worlds, collect the Power Stars to free the castle or whatever. But here it's like you got to stop them from like coming out of the painting.
It's like some Coraline lock and key stuff.
Oh, that'd be cool. Like a scary moment where Mario sees like the Coraline like alternate version of Peach, and she has the button's eyes, and she tries she turns into a spider. This would be a cool part of the game.
That'd been cool. Like instead of when her portrait transforms into Bowser, down the hallway. Just
if you continue through the manual, this is where we'll sort of maybe skip some of the specifics in there. But for folks reading, there's a lot of really good looking stuff here showing you how to tilt the analog stick just a little bit to make Mario walk. And then tilt it all the way to run. I'm going to admit that when I'm playing Mario 64, I never do the walking except for the part where you have to sneak silently by the piranha plant. The rest of the time, I'm running the whole time.
I feel like there's a couple like moments where like we've had some really tense moments where it's like you were trying to get to a very specific spot to make like a really stupid kind of jump, and we're like,
oh yeah,
tiptoeing or like the little thin ice bridge or whatever.
Yeah.
I love the artwork here. Actually, it's very cool. I actually used, it hasn't come out yet, but this one of him swimming I used as a thumbnail for one of our episodes that's coming out. I just love this sort of vibe that Mario's giving off.
Mario looks really frustrated in a lot of these. If you look at him, he's scowling a lot. Mario's got a lot of scowl, and he's scowling maybe in the swimming pictures because he has to deal with the swimming mechanics. So maybe that's what's happening. I like this. How to operate Mario. Do not be overwhelmed at first by the multitude of moves that Mario can do. You need not memorize everything right away. Just master the basics, and you'll quickly learn the rest while playing the game.
That's nice. That's like kind of comforting to know, right?
It is. It's like, hey, don't worry about it.
You don't have to pull off a perfect like triple jump yet.
Yeah.
Yet. When Mario is underwater, it says here, he will be holding his breath, so remember to rise to the surface to occasionally breathe. Mario can also replenish his air bubble if he touches air supply, if he touches air bubbles or coins underwater. They never explain why the coins give him oxygen. I'll take it.
Yeah, they're filled with it. They must be.
He eats them. He eats the coins. He's so hungry. They never explain what he eats when he's on this, so he's just so hungry that he's eating the coins for some food.
This photo of him sidestepping, I always think he looks like he's been caught doing something. Because it doesn't look like he's like doing it up against like a ledge where he's gonna fall. So I don't know. It just like looks odd that he's like sidestepping so closely to a ledge. Or to
he's
a
like
wall.
posing for like a Maxim shoot or something.
Yeah, they got his good side for sure.
Oh yeah, for folks listening, that's on page 8. If you want to get a look at a Maxim Mario, that's page 8 on next to the sidestep section.
I do want to briefly shout out too, because the previous pages, I just want to briefly mention, like, I like that they do give you a whole like how to on like the grabbing his face and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
We were trying to figure out how you kept his face, like you kept like the part you moved to stay. We couldn't figure it out, but it says it here.
Yeah, it's got a whole how-to on that, which is crucial, I think.
They sort of frame this whole section on page 6 around before starting the game, getting used to the controller before you start the game, and guide Mario on his quest. Use the opening screen to become familiar with the new controller. And this is a weird controller, right? Like this is in 1996 you get this controller. It's weird, and I like that the idea is, yeah, like you play with his face, get used to it, get comfortable, just mess around, no threats, no problem. But then immediately they're like, here's how to do this incredibly complicated series of button presses and holds in order to make sure that you've completely malformed his face. It's like you're like two images in and you're holding down 3 different buttons just to hurt him.
Oh, this was so crucial though. I loved like messing around with his face. I would do that for quite a while as a kid, just like making goofy Mario faces.
Grab the nose, pull it, and let it go, and it goes like boing. It's
satisfying.
It's
yeah,
so satisfying. You get operations that mainly use the A button. It's an interesting way of like bucketing controls in this. It's not just walking you through like, hey, like you're going to be walking, then jumping, then hitting. That it's like, here's how each button operates within the game is, I think, a pretty interesting way of framing it for people who are new to the game. Your wall kick, you get your Z button moves over on page 11, backwards somersault, crouching, long jumps. The long jump is secretly, okay, quick question for everybody. What's your favorite move in the game? I think earlier I said it was the backwards somersault, but now I'm changing my mind, and it's the long jump.
Alex,
that one was crucial, right? Yeah, like the long jump made you feel like you had mastered the game on some level if you could get the timing right every time, because it was tricky, especially when I was 7-8 years old. So getting the long jump down was such an amazing feeling, and also, I think to do certain sections of the game, like you had to kind of reliably nail that to get to areas maybe where there was a star or a cannon or something. I'm struggling to think of like exact examples, but there's like the wall jumping and the long jump. That's kind of sort of a lay person's mastery of Mario 64 if you're not getting into speed running, right?
Oh, totally, yeah. The long jump in particular, it's like it's so like satisfying to pull off. Yeah. You have a favorite maneuver, McKenna?
Maybe the backwards somersault. I felt that was useful for getting onto higher platforms.
Yeah, you could like more like, what do you call it? Consistently, like,
yeah,
be like
more consistent.
Just line yourself up. Like facing backwards, and you're like, okay, this is
just do one maneuver,
supposed to trying to, some of them where it's like you gotta maybe try to do a double jump or something like that.
Time the button presses.
Yeah, I would go with the long jump as well too. It's just fun. Like I'm doing it pretty much constantly, even if I don't need to. It's just so satisfying.
It does feel really good. If you send Mario straight into a wall, there's a very satisfying crunch sound. Like it sounds really painful. He grunts. He grunts like he's just gotten like the wind completely knocked out of him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he sounds like he's gonna throw up. Mario just stands up and starts throwing up because he got hit too hard. Here's a question for everybody. I was so I would have been 13 when this game came out, 15 or so by the time that I played it. By that point, I had been playing video games since I was a kid, but the games that I were playing were, simpler, right? Like Mario 1 on the NES, just 2D side scroller, all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. For folks a little bit younger, did you just jump straight into like the 3D stuff like this? Like how do people who didn't get raised on the simpler 2D stuff acclimate to the super complex 3D space and controllers? That's something that I've never quite understood.
Ooh, yeah. That's a good question. Alex, if you want to go first, feel free.
I don't know. It's been interesting watching my son sort of graduate from holding a controller and like really not knowing anything about games, right? At like age whatever, 5 or whenever he started like trying. And then now he's 7 and he's beat every Spider-Man game like multiple times over. He's beat Halo 5 without any help, stuff like that. And I'm struggling to remember him doing much in 2D games. I think he fooled around with like Meat Boy and Cuphead and was like quickly realized, oh, these games look like I would enjoy them, but they kick his ass because they're really hard. And, so he would watch me play Meat Boy in particular a lot, and that kind of got him interested. But the games that he found accessible to his young mind were the 3D stuff. Like, I think Halo 5 was the first one he finished, and then after that, it was like he threw himself into mastering the Insomniac Spider-Mans, and I don't know if it comes from movies and his love of movies kind of translates to, okay, I want to move like Spider-Man, but something about those is intuitive for really young kids. Me, I don't know. It would have been a really awkward adjustment, I think, when I was, 7 years old getting the N64. But yeah, it was a long time ago. I mostly remember the good things and not the sort of awkward growing pains that I'm sure were there. But
I totally can relate to that too, because I had an NES in the years before I had an N64, and I strongly recall, playing games, especially like Super Mario Brothers and stuff. But I think because that happened at such a, like, I got Mario 64 when I was like 6 or 7. So it kind of happened at a similar time. I remember the before type time, but I can't quite, I remember in a similar way of Alex, where it's like maybe more rose colored, I just sort of like, Mario, like they were both Mario to me, and they were both cool, and I knew they were different, but I don't know. How about you? You came about a little bit more into the 3D era a couple years later.
Well, yeah, the Nintendo 64 came out when I was a year and a half old, so there is no time before 3D games for me. Mm-hmm. I don't even remember like learning how to.
But you played a lot.
These.
You played a lot, like handheld.
I did do a lot of handheld.
Gaming. Yeah.
So
which I feel like
I was
more 2D
playing 3D and 2D games as a kid, but I don't remember like learning how to play video games.
Yeah.
That's just like too far back in my life. I just remember playing. I think Mario Kart 64 was my first game, so and that's a pretty easy 3D game to get around, to control.
Yeah, especially you're mostly going straight, ideally.
Yeah.
Or a little bit of curving,
Yeah, but they've both kind of existed simultaneously for me.
Yeah.
Okay.
I more remember in that era, like this all. I've mentioned this, I think, to you before, Nick, but like my grandpa being really into Zelda, and that carrying over into the N64 era. And like I said, I got a bunch of stuff that I was like, oh, he like was like way more into this than I even knew. But I do have a very specific memory as a kid of like him trying to help me with Ocarina of Time and watching him play and be like, wow, he like really can't like move around that well in this game. And so I don't know if maybe it's because he was an older dude and he had been playing since the NES. Maybe he played arcade games too earlier. I don't know, but I don't know. Maybe he had more time to like develop that muscle memory of like 2D games to where like to me it was always natural, like especially in Ocarina of Time, like you just hit the Z button and it puts the camera right behind you, and like it almost like I never had to think about that, Yep. So I don't know.
Z targeting was a hell of a thing. That was smart. Iconic. It really is. Well, the reason I ask is just because I'm like trying to imagine. I just assumed that I had years to get used to this stuff, because when you get to page 12 in here, it teaches you about using the wing cap. And I don't know that I've ever properly gotten comfortable using the wing cap in this game. And when I read about how to do it, if I were like not super fluent in video game controls, I would read this and just be like, never mind, I'm not doing this. It says, if you do the triple jump when Mario is wearing the wing cap item, see page 19, he can fly for a certain amount of time. While Mario is flying, move the control stick left and right to run, pull it towards you to ascend, and press it forward to descend. To land, press the Z button. You can look around while flying using the C buttons. I was just like, no, I'm not going to do any of that. That's impossible.
I've never hit the C buttons while flying, to be honest.
You're like calling out for your cameraman to move around you to get a cool glamour shot while you're flying. There's a cannon shot. You'll find cannons in many courses. See page 18. If Mario gets inside the cannon, it'll shoot him out. If Mario has the wing cap on, he will fly. On the cannon aim screen, change the direction and angle of the cannon's aim using the control stick. There's other ways to flies too. It says you can fly using other methods. They include stomping on special enemies, then jumping and being carried by the wind.
Special enemies, yeah.
Yeah, you can use the corpse of one of your fallen enemies to fly high in the sky. Certain places you can swing or climb, hang onto trees and ropes. I'm going to call something out on page 14. There's a lot going on here. Mario is doing a lot of violence on this page. These are the B button, which I presume stands for bruising button.
The bruise button.
This is the brutal combo. What do they say on the back of the box? The brutal
bruising.
The bruising battles. Mario's punching and kicking, which is funny to think back to, like the idea that they were just like, what should Mario do to attack guys? They're like, I don't know, punch them.
I know, it's
punch
like,
or kick guys.
Most of them, there are some where it's like that is very satisfying, very crucial part of it. Like I think about fighting the bullies when you can get in and like knock them, but I'm like, it feels like, I don't know about what you think, but like it feels wrong to punch a Goomba.
They're just walking around, man, and they're easy to avoid too. It's not like they're a real threat. You're just gonna punch one or kick them in the nose. But you can see if you look at the pictures that Mario is having a really good time doing the violence. Like, if you look at the hold and throw image right there, it's Mario holding a bomb, and he has the biggest smile I've ever seen.
What a madman! Yeah,
yeah, he's psychotic. He's gonna kill somebody.
He looks on the right side, though. He looks more like he's breakdancing. So that's pretty cool. Like all the right... Yeah. Actually, the 4 images on the right, slide attack, pound the ground, trip, and sidekick, those all look like he's breakdancing.
Yeah. This is what the Australian Olympic breakdancer Raygun was going for.
It was a tribute to Mario 64.
The Mario 64 tribute. They couldn't get the music for it. Nobody understood, but we understand. How to play the game is on page number 16. Again, in the classic style of N64 manuals, there's just 1,000 pages of other stuff. And then like at the very end, they're like, here's how the game works. The power stars stolen by Bowser are hidden throughout the courses. To restore peace to the castle, retrieve the power stars. And then I like this. It says the castle layout and the courses. And there's just an outline of a very simple castle. And it says, see the sketch of the castle's structure. Which is not really how the castle is structured.
I am amazed by this. I'm just like, wow.
It is an
really
awesome
simplified
image,
it.
But it does not.
Is that really what it looks like?
This is not what it looks like in my head when I picture the castle. No.
They're like, you have 3 hours to do this. Go.
They're like, we don't have a lot of time and we need something. Please just put something together. I like if you look at it, there's the castle structure and it's all the different floors and the outlines. And it just tells you helpfully first floor, second floor, third floor. Laying it all out for you. Inside the castle, there are 15 main courses and several mini courses. To enter most courses, jump into the paintings hanging on the walls. Look carefully. There are a few courses that you'll enter from unexpected places.
True.
Which is cool.
The
relationship of Power Stars and the Star Door.
Sure.
That's like an album name, I feel like. That's like an album.
like a cool like Prague band or something, yeah.
Yeah, the relationship of Power Stars and the Star Door. Hidden in each course, there are 6 Power Stars. Inside the castle, there are doors marked with star. It's a star icon. Behind these lie new courses. To open these doors, you need to collect a certain number of Power Stars. The more Power Stars you collect, the more places you can go into the castle, and the more courses you can attempt. It is not necessary to find every Power Star. Which is really nice to, it's nice to know. It's nice to know that Bowser didn't put up like too much of a barrier to Mario in all this.
Yeah, actually, I have a question. Like, I don't know how many times you both have like replayed the game, but when you like, if you replay it, are you like, I'm getting all the stars, or do you like? Yeah, I've rarely done. We've done it 100% with like friends, but like you don't go for all the stars. I've never done it by myself.
I've never gotten 120. I think I've usually just gotten the bare minimum, because the thing that I like about this game, aside from his long jump and his back somersault, are the levels just being so weird and different from one another. Like there's so much variety to it. That's what I want to see. I don't want to go get a bunch of red coins. That's not who I am as a person. I want to go to the snow level, and I want to save the penguin, and I want to go to the what did they say earlier? Consider the mysteries of the pyramid. Is that what it said on the back? Something like that.
That's what I wanted. An album name, I think, too.
Ponder the mysteries of the pyramid.
So sick. Yeah, Alex, do you have like a route you do when you play this, or anything you do?
No, not really. Okay. I just sort of, when they released it on the All Stars collection, I just sort of, played it for X number of hours, 6 or 7 hours, and was like, oh, that was fun to come back to. But, cool. I remember one time my sisters were like, let's get all 120 stars, and that was kind of like one of them had that idea, and the three of us sort of teamed up, and we got to 116, and my memory is that eventually one of us was like, okay, we need to, put us out of our misery. And so one of us finally deleted the save file and started fresh. I don't know if that was me. I don't know if that was my younger sister or who that was, but it was kind of like we were never getting that 120. Those last 4 were like just not happening. So we were little kids, so it's fine.
It's good to be like, to not have it there, like eating away at you, just delete it, move on. I like that. Yeah, we would never do it. Either one of us, I can speak for both of us, we would never be able to do it ourselves.
No.
We had to have our friends.
Team of experts.
Our friends showed us Yoshi,
They ask, man, here's the question. Do they just get really hard? Do the stars just get really difficult at a certain point? Again, I've always just been sort of like, I just want to see all the levels. Is it that they get really hard, or are they hard to find, the stars usually?
It's more
harder ones.
I feel like the harder ones are... Yeah.
The coin ones were...
Coins, in some levels, it's like coins are really hard to come by, and it's like you have to do... Like, if you mess up a specific thing, you got to restart the level.
Because some of them are, like, timed.
Yeah, like the blue coins in some of the levels where you hit the switch. Yeah, or, like, somewhere it's like, if you hit this and the coins could fall off the edge and you lose them. So that's where it gets really tough. And then, obviously, like, later in the game, I think some of those levels in general are pretty challenging. Just even the basic stars are hard on those.
Yeah.
Just good luck getting through the end. There's a question in the manual that I think actually is fairly deep. Is the edge of a course the end of the world? It says
that's a song title on the album.
That's a song title, and it's just like, I mean, it gets to the core of, I think, some really big questions. When you get to the edge of a course, you can go no farther. You have reached the end of that world. If you jump or fly into an invisible wall at the edge of a course, it might bounce you back into the course. So, careful.
I like they put that in there, but I feel like that's like something that you almost didn't need to tell us about.
There's a lot in this manual, given that it's like 25 very dense pages that I think like they could have let go unsaid. But I appreciate that they went for it and asked the big questions.
Oh yeah.
They do talk about the 3 coins, that we were just talking about a minute ago. These are some special items. You have yellow coins, blue coins, and red coins. And I had no idea about this. The yellow coins, it tells you if you collect 1 yellow coin, your power meter will recover by 1. We all knew that. If you collect 50 coins, you'll receive a 1-up. So that was a big change to Mario, right? It was always 100 coins for 1-up. Mm-hmm. If you collect 100 coins, ... question mark. The coins that appear when you defeat enemies will disappear after a short time. So if you collect 100 coins, who knows? Big mystery.
That is a fun tease. I like that. Even though you
what happens?
You get a star.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
See, this is why I never got all the stars in the game, because I had no idea.
Yeah, that's what makes it so tough, is like some levels they do not give you a lot. You know, you have to really penny pinch with the coins.
Okay. I'm clearly not a completionist. No. I had no idea, and I've played this game for how many thousands of hours, probably. Blue coins equal 5 yellow coins. They appear when you press the blue coin switch, and they'll disappear after a short time. Blue coins will also appear when you destroy certain enemies. I like the idea of destroying certain enemies, not just just wreck them.
Defeat might be better. I don't know. Okay.
Defeat. I like the idea. It's just like after you have torn asunder your enemies, blue coins will appear. Red coins equal 2 yellow coins. There are 8 of these coins in each course. Collect all 8 in one play to make a power star appear.
One play, okay.
Which I think is kind of one play. Yes, the language of video games evolving. One play. There's handy items. A spinning heart. If you pass through it, your strength power meter will recover. The faster you run through it, the more strength you'll recover. I didn't know that.
Oh, weird. I did not. Yeah. Okay.
So there you go. Get a good running jump. There's a 1-up mushroom. Complete this to increase the number of Marios remaining by 1. And Koopa shells. Hit a yellow block or stomp on a Koopa to find this item. If Mario rides on the shell, he'll be invincible until he hits a wall or goes to a place he could not go normally. And there's
the
cannons.
That's where it comes into play.
That's right. And then some courses you can find Bomb buddies. When you talk to one, it will open the cannon hatches. Cannons can be used to shoot Mario far away.
I loved earlier they were like, when they were talking about flying, they're like, see page 19 for more info on cannons. And I was like, what possibly could they say? And it's like, they could have probably just put this on that page. It would have been okay.
They should have given, like, every game should have come with like 5 bookmarks so you can like go to the page you need to while holding your place earlier.
Hold on, I gotta get the cannon info.
So I lost my place. Hold on. Rustling around, dropping the manual.
I'll never understand this game.
It's just like sweating profusely trying to get to 19. Where's 19? Somewhere 3 switches and 3 caps. A lot of like just good naming conventions here. Somewhere hidden in the castle are red, green, and blue cap switches. If you step on these switches, all the semi-visible blocks of that color in all courses will fill in. Jump at the blocks to break them open and reveal the caps hidden inside. With these caps on, Mario will gain a power for a certain period of time. You can save the game after stepping on a switch. Was this the only time that Mario got his powers from a cap specifically and exclusively? In the Mario games, Cappy maybe in Mario Odyssey is sort of a different thing, but like I don't know that like Mario wearing different hats was the way that worked usually.
Yeah, I'm wondering like what was the thinking, but you know, as far as doing that instead of like you get like a fire flower or something, you know.
maybe it was an opportunity for them to render what I consider to be an extremely disturbing image, which is Mario without his hat. I find it's gross. It's so gross. It's like his skin came off. When you lose your cap, sometimes an enemy will steal Mario's regular cap, or Mario might drop and lose it. When Mario is not wearing his cap, he takes more damage than usual. You can always find a cap Mario lost in the course where he lost it, so retrieve it as soon as you can. Yeah, it's gross. I don't know. It's something gross about it.
Favorite cap? Do you have a favorite cap?
Good question. Oh, you're gonna have to come back to me. I'm looking at the caps.
Alex, how about you?
The metallic one,
Yeah.
like the green one, is pretty fun. Sink to the bottom of the ocean. You can walk, and you look like the T-1000, which kind of fits with our whole theme of Mario being a violent destroyer of like eldritch horrors. Apparently, in this game.
Oh shit!
Now that we've read the lore,
here comes Metal Mario. Hiding underneath rubble. Glowing eyes of Metal Mario.
You can bounce if you're the metal cap Mario. You can bounce off of enemies. You won't be damaged when you touch flames. I like this. You won't be affected by water or toxic gases. I think the idea of the toxic gases seems extremely dangerous to me.
Well, yeah, when you're in the hazy maze cave, it's hella toxic. Yeah,
it is hella toxic. Mario should have had an N95 mask.
Masked Mario, yeah.
An M95 mask. It's Mario 95 mask. You can pass if you have a blue block, the vanish cap, you can pass through an enemy's body without being damaged, which again is I think a frightening concept.
It's like something I wanted to do. I'm glad they finally gave me the ability.
It tells you a little bit about camera options. One of the tricks of the game is to use the camera skillfully, which I think is a really nice way of saying, hey, the camera's not fully baked yet. I like that. It's like another thing you can do is wrestle with the camera. You are not just the player, but the cinematographer too. So it's an opportunity when the camera gets stuck behind something.
That's true. You are sort of playing as Lakitu as well. That's important to keep in mind. Yeah, I like that.
Mario's...
Like saying like, hey, if you got this wrong, you actually need to be more skillful in your camera use. That's good. Unload some of the blame.
Have fun with the camera. Mario's camera operators are the Lakitu brothers. I do think that's Mario's very vain. I think that's what I'm learning from this game is that Mario's extremely vain.
He's got so there's two guys. There's two Lakitu.
They're the Lakitu brothers, but you only meet one at the beginning. Maybe this is like a what are they called? The Olsen twins, where like in Full House they were played by two different people, but they play the same character. Maybe that's what's happening here.
Like Lakitu is a minor, and they can only use him for so long.
You switch between the really close-up camera and then the farther away normal one. So maybe the two brothers each have their own camera. I don't know.
Oh, that's cool. And then we're like...
Just a hypothesis that I'll have to look into.
I like this. Then you're like the director and you're like, all right, camera two, you know?
Yeah, like the first assistant director, second unit director or whatever. I'm going to IMDb this.
Now I'm envisioning like an area like behind the thing where like the Lakitu brothers like have to go to school so that they can get their education.
That's a good game. That's a good game idea, I think.
Labor like a Mushroom Kingdom labor law simulator.
Yeah, you work in like some office that just deals with like a lot of the paperwork and stuff like that, you know. You make sure like the OSHA, you know, is all good in the castle, you know, make sure they have the poster up in the break room and all that stuff.
Making sure that like when like families of the rest of the cast are on set that they're not causing too much of a problem.
Yeah, that's good.
I'll read this and then we're basically towards the end, but I do want to call out there's a section here called Tips and Other Details. Again, the manual is very conversational at times, which I appreciate. Does it seem you have reached the game's limits? Have you reached your own limits?
Whoa.
Is it? Yeah, well, it is possible that you could be forgetting or not noticing something very simple.
The manual is kind of like get gooding you a little bit with these last two sections. So like something wrong with the McKenna, you're having a hard time with the camera? I think you actually need to be more skillful, please.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's actually a trick you can learn to enjoy.
A skill issue.
You're not enjoying it quite right. No.
Like, it's possible you could be forgetting or not noticing something very simple. You idiot, you stupid moron.
Have you ever considered you are not noticing something simple?
Like something in the water that'll help me swim better.
I love that.
Have you checked your home's paint for lead? Is that the problem you're experiencing when you play this game?
The mail should open up. Hey, dummy.
You get a bunch of that stuff. There's lots of ways to get power stars. I'm not going to read all that sort of stuff. Different ways, different things you can do. Stars are numbered, and a hint where they are you can go is displayed on the screen. But there is a section at the end here on page 23 that says, for those of you who can, it's kind of like a last ditch. Here's all the stuff you need. For those of you who cannot find the next course, not all courses are entered from the paintings on the wall. Some entrances are found in unexpected places, so search everywhere. They really want you to know that because they've called that out before, too. For those of you who are impatient or overly eager...
Fair.
Fair. No, totally get it. For those of you with baby brains who don't have time who can't just come across the game on its own terms, when crossing a narrow bridge, impatient is so aggressive. I'm like kind of getting, this is a hard thing to read. For those of you who are impatient, take it easy, it says. Some enemies will not notice you or attack you if you sneak up on them. For those of you who tend to fall from high places, you will take less damage when you fall into slopes instead of flat areas. If you pound the ground, in quotes, just above the ground as you fall, you'll sustain less damage. For those of you who cannot go where you want to go, are there any actions or movements that you have not tried with Mario? Use the movements that best fit your circumstances. I will say, this is how I sometimes feel like I talk to my kids when they're like asking me for something like, Daddy, where's my tablet? And I'm like, well, have you looked everywhere? And now I feel like a real jerk. I'm like, this is how I feel reading the manual. My kids must be real mad at me for this. For those of you who do not...
You should try saying to them, is it possible that you could be forgetting or not noticing something very simple?
I'll just hand them the manual and just say, this is what you need to do.
Or say, just try looking over all your movements.
Yeah. If they like trip while running, I'll say, for those of you who are impatient or overly eager... My poor kids. For those of you who do not know how to defeat enemies, there are some enemies you cannot defeat with a regular punch or kick, which is good life advice. Spin around them, step on them, throw them, try everything.
Okay.
Like drop a toaster in the bathtub when they're in it. Try everything. Sneak up on them when they're asleep. Do anything. For those of you who get a little hot. It's all in caps. Hot.
Oh. What?
When Mario
Okay.
When Mario gets flamed, he takes off running. You can still move him with the control stick, so do not give up. And then,
that's good. For
those of you who get a cold head. Is that a saying? That's not something I'm familiar with saying, getting a cold head.
No, I don't think so.
No.
Well, remember that if you save and quit the game when Mario has lost his cap, he'll still be missing it when you resume the game. It is better not to save when Mario is capless, if you can avoid it.
Oh,
Sorry.
You rarely see a game being like don't save. Just if you lose the cap, just hit that reset button,
They're seeding a good excuse with kids. They have to miss like school so that they can because they can't save the game. Sorry, I can't save the game. Mario doesn't have his cap and he's horrifying without his cap. So Maybe they like designed the game and then they wrote the manual like he's too awful looking without his cap on. You can't save until you go find it, please.
What have we done?
What have we done? Now, I want to call the last thing out here. The thing that I do want to read real quick is just a few names of folks, because we don't usually get credits in Nintendo 64 games, first party Nintendo 64 games, I feel like. So this is really cool. We get Hiroshi Yamauchi, our executive producer. We love Yamauchi. Famously humorous guy, and a very lighthearted guy, is my understanding. Then you get Shigeru Miyamoto, who's both the producer and the director. But I'm going to skip a number of folks down here. Charles Martinet, obviously. Peach was voiced by Leslie Swan. And then the manual text writers. We actually get manual writers in a Nintendo manual, which I think is really cool. Thank you to Phil Sandhop and Leslie Swan. I did a little looking up of them online. There's not a ton there, but Phil Sandhop and Leslie Swan. So,
well, Leslie Swan is also the voice of Peach. Wow,
that's right.
That's cool. I didn't know that, or maybe I knew that.
So at the end of the day, she had a lot to say here. She doesn't talk a lot as Peach in the game, but she says a lot here in the manual for Super Mario 64 on the Nintendo 64. And then we got a 3-month limited warranty, so we're I think coming up on the end of that one.
We're safe.
We're saying, yeah. Oh, so that's how this goes. But you can always call them with on the back of the manual. There's that old Mario with the little screwdriver, so you can get to authorized repair centers. Nice. Yeah,
I think
so. There you go. That was the manual.
I think they did a great job with this manual. Like, we were joking about stuff, but like it's actually, like, compared to other stuff we've read, like it's actually probably the most normal, like, manual. You know what I mean? Like, you could tell some, like, it's like they're, which I almost prefer, actually. Like, some game manuals, they're like going completely out of pocket, and this one is like it's actually pretty much, it's kind of what you would expect. There's a lot of fun little things, fun like little character things and stuff like that, or things that give it character, but it's actually like the way it's laid out and written, I think it's like the best manual, like, technically, that we've read.
Best manual technical. That's the award that we're providing it.
Technical, yeah. It did not have any
technical achievement.
No pictures of Pierce Brosnan pointing a gun at us, so kind of a disappointment.
Absolutely not. We got to do on the cover of the manual where Mario is getting flamed by Bowser with the fire. We got to get that picture of Pierce Brosnan standing in front of the fire, like in the Golden
yeah.
Yeah, he's
yeah,
so sick.
That's so sick.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I don't know. Alex, what do you think? Did this manual change the way you look at Mario 64?
Not quite. Okay. That's a pretty tall order, but we had a lot of fun kind of poking holes in its sort of worldview and language choices, and for that, that bit of entertainment and enlightenment, I'm grateful. I think that it is a really good manual, and it kind of, it does it in small ways, but it harkens back to that tradition of, like the Elder Scrolls manuals or X-Wing, Star Wars X-Wing, where they're like, here's a novella set in the Star Wars universe or whatever, where it's like, the manual is the place where you build the world. Today, Skyrim, and there's talk of Elder Scrolls 6 and the Elder Scrolls Online and all these tie-in novels, like that all started in a manual, essentially that came with a PC game in a box. So, obviously, Nick doesn't need to be told this, but it's like the manuals are cool as hell. And I opened up, my daughter was digging through a cabinet that she shouldn't have been digging through, and found some of my 3DS cases, and some of them have manuals, some of them don't. And I'm like, it's weird that this Pokemon game, and maybe I lost the manual, but it was weird to open like Pokemon Moon and not see a manual in there and just be like, does this not have a manual? And, nowadays it's probably very normal to open a game and not find a manual.
It is.
So yeah, something has been lost with print publishing and just the different priorities that, the medium has now, I suppose.
Yeah, it's kind of sad. We've gone through we acquired a bunch of Wii games recently that all had like manuals in them and stuff, but they're like right on the cusp of that era where it's like it really stopped mattering, and a lot of them they seem good because it's like, oh, it's thick, and then you realize, well, it's good, it's in like 3 different languages or whatever, but you realize each section is like the most broad explanation of the game. And I mean, I get it, like it's explained mostly in the game, but I don't know, there's something exciting about pulling up the manual and reading it. I miss it.
I think for me, one of the things with these in this era of it is like, yeah, like a lot of stuff is explained in the game, and yeah, we poke holes and we poke fun and all that. But I really love this stuff, and like I think the thing is like you can see just how much work and effort and care and like love actually went into this thing, just designing it, figuring out what to highlight, what to clarify, finding a voice for the thing, because this manual actually has a pretty consistent voice throughout, which is kind of neat. And I always feel like when I read these manuals, from this era and before, a little bit into like the Dreamcast PS2 era too, is there's obviously like an element of like humans made this, and I know we've talked about this before, but like it's a reminder that humans made this, and the manual is an opportunity to showcase a lot of the really cool stuff that you may just take for granted in the moment that you're playing it, right? Like while you're playing, like we talked about, like probably don't need to spell out that the edge of the level is the edge of the world, but like it's like they're calling out something else that you might want to know, that some thought went into it. None of the decisions, none of the stuff that you see in the game is just by happenstance. It was all decisions, right? And totally. I kind of like having the opportunity to read this and be like, oh right, like these are all decisions that somebody made, and they want to call them out because they thought it was important. So it adds sort of a voice to the game and makes it more than just a product to me.
Yeah, film Twitter is constantly decrying the sort of slow death of the director's commentary on DVDs and Blu-rays, and it's a similar kind of thing. It's where totally, an artist can say like, I made the movie, just go watch that. That's the thing. I don't want to explain everything. But like people who care about this stuff, people who love games or movies or any music, whatever, liner notes, people want something from the artist, some kind of insight or, something to get the ball rolling. And I suppose critics do that too, but to get it from the artist gives you certainly a unique, different angle on it.
Absolutely. And here it's coming from Princess Peach herself. I think earlier we were wondering who that red text was saying you are the only one we can count on. You said this all has one voice. I think it's all Princess Peach. I think even when it's negging us later, that's probably Princess
Peach. It's
Peach.
Literally Anya Taylor-Joy. No, I'm just kidding.
She wrote, yeah. They should let her try to write the next Mario manual. I think she would do a good job. Like it's been passed down through Princess Peach to Princess Peach. What'd you think about the manual, McKenna?
I think it's great. I always love looking at the art when I look through a game manual. Just like having a physical piece of art from the game.
I love this. Like I'm always pulling these for thumbnails for like Zelda things and stuff. But when these manuals have all these little pieces of key art for like everything in the game, like it's fun to just for my perspective of like making little thumbnails and things. It's like, oh cool, I can get like one of Mario breakdancing or whatever, like it's just awesome. It's awesome to look at this and like I don't know, I even just would do that when I was a kid, looking at the Ocarina of Time manual and like just imagining all these things I could collect or like situations I could be in. Have all these little tiny moments drawn out is very cool.
Yeah, I was just thinking how much I would love to have a manual for Echoes of Wisdom. Just have like all of those echoes in there, and little Zelda in different forms and outfits, and it would be so cute.
Yeah, you never know when you need all the little bits of artwork, and it's so much nicer when you can get like a nice little image and not like from a screenshot or something like that. Nice little art.
I mentioned at the beginning with the Plucky Squire, I think, having a manual in it coming up. There's Gunsport, Hyper Gunsport. The game has one in there as well. A bunch of games published by the publisher Inen, I think. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that the right way. Those have manuals now. Actually, Super Monkey Ball, the latest Super Monkey Ball, came with a little book. Can't see it if you're listening, but it came with a little booklet with all sorts of cool stuff and art and character bios. So maybe it's coming back, and maybe in a few years we'll start to get Phil Sandhop and Leslie Swan writing manuals for Nintendo games all over again.
Leslie, yeah, please
It's like
come back.
Is it the Tunic effect?
Tunic, and I think probably too, like, you see like places like limited run games or whatever doing like including the stuff almost makes it like a collector type thing, like where it's just like another thing to have on your shelf and stuff. And I'd be okay with that if like I don't think, as long as it's not like super luxury, super boutique, like I'm cool with like it coming back as like a collector's hobby, like in a similar way to like vinyl or something like that. That kind of had a resurgence because it is something more like physical you can hold. So I think that probably plays into it a lot too. Almost nostalgia for having those things before makes you want them again. As you learned, we got a huge VHS dump that we brought home. Nic, thank you so much for coming back on and leading us through this. It's always great to have you on for a manual talk. Love the streams, obviously, and just thanks for bringing that over here and not hoarding it all.
All the manuals are just for me. No, it's super fun, and I'm so grateful to be able to join and just do this. It's so much fun to read these with folks too, and like just talk about them as we're going. So thank you for having me, and thank you for humoring me maybe on this stuff. I love it.
Yeah, I like being the sort of the chorus or whatever of it. If you ever want people to come on, I'm not going to invite us on your stream, but I am sort of inviting us. Yeah.
Do you want to know the one reason I haven't considered that yet? Is only because I don't know how to do it. So if you want to tell me how to bring somebody onto a stream, just a manual perhaps for how to bring someone onto a stream, I would love that.
We can figure it out. McKenna's our stream producer, our director. We'll figure it out sometime. Alex, it was great to have you back on. Always great to talk to you. Hopefully have you back on again soon too. But thanks you so much.
Yeah, this is my third or fourth one, and it's always a pleasure. And I love the unique instruction booklet format a lot. It was fun, very fun.
Cool. Yeah, thanks. I've thrown it at different people, and everyone's been so down to try it out. Like I don't know. I guess I don't know. I don't know why I think people will be like, that's weird. Everyone's like, that sounds fun. So, yeah, thank you so much. Another iconic guest that we've had on multiple times, and hopefully more in the future. McKenna, thank you for being here. Thank you. Your voice held up good.
Yeah.
I'm going to cut it out, but I was coughing way more than you. So, yeah, great.
I felt it like start to go a couple of times.
Well, congratulations, you did good.
Thank you.
Everyone can check out we got all the links for all our stuff down below. We've got the stuff we talked about for Nic and Alex. We'll have that down in the links as well. And yeah, thanks everyone for listening, and we'll see you later. Bye. Of course, we want to give a special thank you to all of our Millennium Star tier patrons. So thank you Darren Hupke, Infection Form, Jeremy Aber, Kiefer, Nico Sylvian, Paul Quaid, and Underline Fee. Thank you so much, and check us out at patreon.com/flashback64.